Have you ever been in a really busy place, a crowded store, or a loud restaurant and just felt completely overwhelmed? Like your brain can't quite keep up? Well, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive deep into the world of adult sensory needs, figure out what it means to feel overloaded, and see how understanding our senses can actually be this incredible tool for our well-being. You know, this quote right here from the National Autistic Society just hits the nail on the head. It so perfectly captures that feeling. It's not just feeling a little stressed out. It's a total, complete flooding of the senses. I mean, just imagine trying to watch 40 different TV channels all at once. That feeling, that overwhelming shutdown feeling, it actually has a name: sensory overload. And what we're learning is that it's a very, very real experience for so many adults, especially, but not only, for those who are neurodivergent. It's what happens when one or more of our senses gets so much input that the brain just throws its hands up and says, "Nope, I can't process all of this." So, okay, that brings up some really big questions, right? What is actually going on inside our brains when this happens? And maybe more importantly, what on earth can we do about it? How can we manage it and maybe even create a world that feels a little more comfortable? All right, first up, let's really get into what sensory overload feels like. Because honestly, just being able to recognize the signs is the absolute first step toward understanding it and then managing it. You know, the signs can pop up in all kinds of ways. It could be that classic feeling of anxiety and stress in a crowded mall that just makes you want to turn around and leave. Or it could be totally physical, like a pounding headache after a long day in a noisy open-plan office. For some people, it's that scratchy tag on a shirt, or the texture of a certain food, or even just a perfume that's way too strong, causing real, actual distress. I absolutely love this metaphor from the neuroscientist Dr. Jean Ayers. She called it a neurological traffic jam. And it's just the perfect picture, isn't it? When way too many cars try to cram into an intersection all at the same time, everything just stops. Gridlock. That is exactly what's happening inside an overloaded brain. So what's actually causing this big neurological traffic jam? Well, the answer is hidden in our sensory systems. And as it turns out, there are quite a few more than the 5 we all learned about back in elementary school. Right, so we all know the big 5: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But occupational therapists and researchers actually work with 8 senses. The 3 you might not know are the vestibular system, which is all about movement, the proprioceptive system for body awareness, and interoception, which is our sense of what's going on inside our bodies. And these so-called hidden senses, they are absolutely crucial for staying regulated. Let's break these down real quick. First up, proprioception. This is the constant feedback we get from our muscles and our joints. It's how you can close your eyes and still touch your finger to your nose. This sense is key for knowing where your body is, and giving it input, like a really firm hug or the weight of a heavy blanket, can be incredibly calming to a nervous system that's all fired up. Okay, next is the vestibular system. This one's located in our inner ear, and it's the boss of our sense of movement and balance. It tells us which way is up and if we're moving. Just think about that gentle, soothing feeling of rocking in a chair or swinging on a swing set. That's you, engaging your vestibular system to help regulate your body. And last but not least, interoception. This is basically our internal body sense. It's this whole network of receptors that tells our brain what's happening on the inside. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Is my heart racing because I'm feeling anxious? Having a really well-tuned sense of interoception is a huge part of being able to regulate our emotions. So, okay, knowing about these extra senses is pretty cool, but how does that actually help us manage that neurological traffic jam we talked about? Well, it turns out that by intentionally, deliberately engaging these systems, we can actively calm our own nervous system. This is where we get into the real science of calm. One of the most effective strategies out there is called deep pressure therapy. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, applying firm but gentle pressure to the body. This directly feeds that proprioceptive sense we were just talking about. The cool part is that this technique has been shown to help our brains release calming chemicals like dopamine and even lower cortisol, the stress hormone. And look, this isn't just a nice idea, there's real science to back it up. For example, a study published in the Scandinavian Journal of Occupational Therapy decided to look at how weighted blankets, which are a super popular form of deep pressure, actually affected sleep for people dealing with conditions like ADHD and autism. And the results were, well, they were pretty compelling. The study found that these blankets didn't just help people get to sleep. A whopping 81% said they slept better through the night. But for me, this last number is the real kicker. Nearly 80% of the people in the study chose to use the blanket every single night. That tells you just how valuable they found it. So, with all of this science in mind, this whole world of tools has just popped up to help adults manage their sensory needs. It's time to take a look inside the modern sensory toolkit. What's happened is that this science has led to a total explosion of helpful tools. So on one hand, you've got your more clinical, therapeutic items that you might get from an occupational therapist, things like weighted vests. But on the other hand, the mainstream market is now absolutely full of fidgets and sensory tools. It's a huge shift, and it really shows how much awareness around sensory needs has grown. And the cool thing is, today's tools for adults are often designed to be really discreet. The whole idea is that they don't look like toys. So you might have a totally silent infinity cube that you can use in meetings, or maybe a weighted roller that gives you that calming pressure in your hand during a stressful day. There are even pendants that just look like cool jewelry, but they're actually designed for safe, discreet chewing. But that brings up a really good question. A lot of people wonder about these oral sensory tools, this jewelry. Is something that's literally designed to be chewed on, is that actually safe for your teeth? And it's a totally valid concern. But in a discussion I saw in an online autism community, one user made a fantastic point. Jewelry is almost always made of soft, food-grade silicone. It's meant to be squishy, so it's not going to damage your teeth. Of course, the advice is always the same. If you have specific dental work like braces, that's definitely a conversation to have with your dentist. But hey, managing sensory needs goes way beyond just tools you can buy. It's also about shaping your environment. You can actually build your own little sensory-friendly sanctuary right at home. Think of it like this. Start with a quiet corner, get rid of harsh overhead glare with some dimmable lamps, and then add in cozy textures like a soft rug or a beanbag chair. Then you can take control of the sound with headphones or soft music, and maybe add a calming scent like lavender. It's all about building a personal retreat for when the world just gets to be too much. At the end of the day, whether it's through a weighted blanket, a discreet fidget in your pocket, or just a quiet space at home, understanding your own unique sensory profile, that's the first step. It completely changes the experience, from feeling constantly overwhelmed by the world to feeling empowered, where you actually have the tools to regulate your own nervous system. And that really brings us to the final big picture thought here. Once we understand our own needs, the much bigger question becomes, how can we use this knowledge to build a world that's more accommodating and sensory-friendly for everyone? From our workplaces to our public spaces, that's the next frontier. Thanks for tuning in to The Explainer.